If you are new to the world of data analytics, we're here to help you understand what SkySpark is all about. In this short video, we'd like to introduce you to the SkySpark technology and the key skills that you'll need to use it, just because we're nice like that. So let's start with the fact that SkySpark is an open platform, which sounds great, but what does this actually mean? Well, SkySpark is a huge web application which typically runs from a server or cloud space. It is open so that you can connect virtually anything to SkySpark, including measurement devices, software and web applications, and websites. For example, think of using information directly from gas and energy companies. This is what makes SkySpark a unique data platform, as it's incredibly customizable as an open platform. Although SkySpark is designed to manage building data, it can be used in almost any environment. So for example, an aquarium could use it to monitor the water quality and temperature of their tanks. The idea of using SkySpark is easy when you think of monitoring a simple environment like a meeting room. The complexity comes when you're looking at, say, all of the data in all of the rooms, in all of the floors, in all of the buildings of a hospital campus. This is why SkySpark is a powerful data engine to process all of this big data and requires such a large technology stack to connect it all. Also, to install and set up SkySpark, it requires a range of technical skills and knowledge, so it's not quite as easy to pick up as, say, Microsoft Office. So now that we've introduced SkySpark and what it can do, let's quickly take a look at what it takes to get a SkySpark installation up and running. Meet Chuck. He's been tasked with setting up a pilot project for SkySpark. Chuck has decided to analyze data for his company's rooftop unit. As a BMS engineer, Chuck works with this RTU to provide airflows and heating into the building. He would love to know how this RTU is operating whilst he's enjoying a coffee at his desk, especially while it's raining. First of all, Chuck needs to set up SkySpark. To install the software, Chuck is deciding whether to use a server in his company building or a web-hosted server in the cloud. SkySpark operates over HTTP ports and requires license files to be populated in the correct file directories. Looks like Chuck's gonna need to learn how to set up software and web servers. Once SkySpark is up and running, he needs to connect it to his rooftop unit. To figure out the best way to do this, he'll need to understand how the unit is hooked up to a network or the internet. Then he can work out the best way to integrate the data into SkySpark. Chuck has connected the RTU, but SkySpark doesn't seem to understand what or where it is. That's not on the roof, Chuck. Now Chuck needs to learn how to use Project Haystack tags in SkySpark to properly describe his rooftop unit and what kind of data it's sending. Modeling data accurately is really important. Now with the right tags applied, Chuck can see where the RTU is in his building and what it's connected with as it passes air around, which is really important if he wants to add more equipment into SkySpark later. Hooray! Chuck is reading his rooftop unit data in SkySpark, so now he can see whether it's on or off. Maybe he needs to know a bit more than that. Possibly the most important thing about using SkySpark is planning out the data you need to use it for. Chuck needs to learn all about data analytics to do this effectively, because Chuck will need actionable data to be able to make decisions on how to use his rooftop unit more efficiently. Chuck now realizes he needs to find more key information about his RTU, like current status, operation schedules, and current date time. Chuck also needs to make sure that the RTU is always operating effectively. To do this, he needs to be notified when there's a problem. SkySpark handles this by comparing information with added conditions, termed as rules. Looks like Chuck needs to learn Axon programming to write his rules and set up any alerts and notifications, as Axon is the main scripting language used in SkySpark. Chuck finally has the data he needs to prove his pilot project works. His remaining challenge is now being able to find his data and display it in a way that's easy for his bosses to understand. These are complicated analytics he's working on after all. But the problem is that he's spending so much time finding what matters that he's behind on his work. To save time, Chuck needs to learn how to set up dashboards and displays in SkySpark, so he can get his key data in just 2 clicks and see exactly what he needs to. Now after all that setup and hard work, Chuck's pilot project is a success. Great news! Now his bosses want to move forward and set up an entire office block with SkySpark. Wow, Chuck needs a whole SkySpark team to help him out with this one. So Chuck now sets out a training schedule for his new team to learn the 5 main skills that he needed to fully utilize SkySpark. If you remember, these skills revolved around data integration, data models, analytics, programming, and custom view building. So where did Chuck learn all of these skills? He learned them with the help of the Phantom Factory e-learning range. Not everybody can be like Chuck and learn them all. But with these modular e-learning courses, some of his team can work on the analytics and reports, while others can focus on tagging and programming. Chuck's new team is sorted, and they'll have their CPD accredited certificates in no time. To find out more about our training or browse our website, click the link in the description below and contact us anytime. Thanks for watching.